The train's whistle pierced the Montana sky as Clara stepped onto the platform, her worn carpetbag clutched in trembling hands. She had traveled 3,000 miles from Boston to marry a man she'd never met, a farmer named James Holloway, who promised nothing but honest work and a simple life. At 28, with no family and dwindling prospects, she had answered his advertisement with equal parts desperation and hope. His letters had been kind, straightforward, speaking of crops and cattle, of long winters and the satisfaction of working the land. He wrote like a man who understood hardship, and Clara, who had spent 5 years caring for her dying parents before losing everything to their debts, understood hardship too. A tall man approached, hat in hand, his face weathered by sun and wind. "Miss Clara?" His voice was gentle, uncertain. "On James." She studied him, noting the calluses on his hands, the simple homespun shirt, the nervous way he shifted his weight. He looked exactly like what she expected, a hard-working farmer of modest means. Relief washed over her. She could handle modest. She could handle simple. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you," she said, extending her hand. The wagon ride from town took 2 hours, winding through vast stretches of grassland dotted with cattle. James spoke little, pointing out landmarks, apologizing for the rough road. Clara appreciated his quiet nature. She'd had enough of Boston's smooth-talking men who promised everything and delivered nothing but heartbreak. As the sun began its descent, James guided the wagon up a long drive. Clara expected to see a small farmhouse, perhaps a barn, the humble homestead of a struggling farmer. Instead, the wagon crested a hill and she gasped. Before her stood a magnificent 3-story house with wraparound porches, painted white with elegant black shutters. Beyond it stretched an enormous barn, newly built and gleaming. Smaller outbuildings dotted the property, all well maintained. Pastures rolled out in every direction, filled with what must have been hundreds of cattle. In the distance, she saw riders on horseback working the herds. "James," she whispered, her voice shaking, "what is this?" He pulled the wagon to a stop, his jaw tight. "This is my ranch." "Our ranch, if you'll still have me." Clara felt her blood turn cold. "You lied to me? You said you were a farmer. You said you had a simple life? I am a farmer? I farm cattle, wheat, and hay on 4,000 acres. His hands gripped the reins until his knuckles whitened. "And my life is simple, Miss Clara. At least it's lonely." "That part I didn't lie about." "Why?" The word came out as an accusation. "Why deceive me? Why not tell me the truth?" James climbed down from the wagon and stood looking up at her, his face etched with something between shame and defiance. "Because I tried telling the truth before. 3 years ago, I advertised honestly, mentioned the ranch, the land. Women came, one after another. They smiled at the house, counted the cattle, and tolerated me. The last one, Elizabeth, she said yes to the ring. 2 weeks before the wedding, I overheard her telling her sister she'd put up with any man for this kind of security. That she'd do her wifely duty and spend her days redecorating and ordering servants around. He turned away, staring at the house. I didn't want a woman who saw me as a means to an end. I wanted someone who'd choose me, not my bank account. Someone who understood what it means to work, to build something with your own hands. Someone who wouldn't run when times got hard, because there will be hard times. Drought, disease, accidents. Wealth doesn't protect you from life's sorrows. Clara sat frozen in the wagon, her mind reeling. Part of her felt betrayed, manipulated. But another part understood the loneliness in his voice, the fear of being wanted only for what you could provide rather than who you were. I should be furious with you, she said finally. You have every right to be. I traveled 3,000 miles expecting to marry a poor farmer, to spend my days cooking over a wood stove in a 2-room cabin, washing clothes by hand, wondering if we'd have enough to get through winter. I know, and now I find myself standing before a palace, with more resources than I ever dreamed possible. She climbed down from the wagon, her legs unsteady. You realize this changes nothing about who I am or what I can offer you. James turned to face her, hope flickering in his eyes. I'm still the same woman who answered your letter, Clara continued, moving closer. I can't suddenly become sophisticated or refined. I don't know anything about running a grand house or hosting society parties. I know how to work hard, stretch a dollar, and find joy in small things. That's all I have. That's all I want, he said quietly. That's everything I want. Clara looked at the house, then back at James. She saw not a wealthy rancher but a man afraid of being alone, desperate enough to hide his success for a chance at genuine connection. She recognized that fear because she carried it too. The terror of being reduced to your circumstances rather than seen for your heart. I came here prepared to be a poor farmer's wife, she said, a small smile tugging at her lips. I suppose I'll just have to adjust to being a rich farmer's wife. Though I warn you, James Holloway, I'll still get up at dawn, I'll still work in the garden, and I won't apologize for hanging laundry myself if that's what I feel like doing. His face broke into a grin that transformed him, revealing the younger, hopeful man beneath the weathered exterior. I wouldn't have it any other way. As they walked toward the house together, Clara realized that sometimes the biggest deceptions reveal the deepest truths. James hadn't lied about who he was, only about what he owned. And in doing so, he'd given her something more valuable than any mansion or cattle empire. He'd given her the gift of